You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello and welcome to another live stream from Force 13 Live on Cyclone Asani. I must say, it's somewhat good to be back because it's been ages since we last did any kind of update live on anything. But now we are here and we do have a potentially serious situation to cover in the form of Cyclone Asani, obviously pictured there in front of you. And this is a storm that's just off the coast of India right now, Andhra Pradesh, and is going to probably deliver lots of rain to the area, which could lead to flooding, and of course right now has strong winds too of around 75 miles per hour. That's hurricane strength. That's around 120 kilometers per hour sustained winds. And a pressure of somewhere around 980 millibars, 980. And here's some recent imagery of it as it closes in on land there. So a lot to discuss and discover, I suppose, as we look at this right now, and all those locations that are near those expected high rain rates. This is satellite derived. Those red and pink areas, that's well into the 30s, 40s millimeters per hour rain rates. The green areas, that's around 10 to 20 millimeters per hour. A lot of those areas now reaching land. Just west of Nellore, some significant rainfall there too. My name is Nathan Foy here in the studio as always, and of course I'll be taking you through this primarily, but I do have my team with me right now as well. We currently have Ethan and Trin, who is in Kolkata, so I'm sure we'll get some news from him as well. But Ethan, first of all, what are your thoughts on this, and a bit of a curveball that's been thrown by its track in the last 12 to 24 hours?
Yeah, absolutely. This storm, when it was at 70 miles per hour 24 hours ago, it was looking like that it might curve up towards Visakhapatnam. My bad on the pronunciation of that town. I hope I got it right. But it was looking like that might make a close pass to land or just north of there as a weakening system. But the system has jogged significantly towards the southwest, and as such, we're now looking at a landfall much earlier than that, probably in about 24 hours from now, if not earlier. Probably still has a weakening storm, so the wind aspect isn't going to be too high, but the main threat that we're going to be seeing from the system is very heavy rainfall. And the system's influence, while the central core of this thing might be very small and very limited to coastlines, the influence from this storm in particular, I'm hoping I can get a still image of this, is absolutely massive. We've got rainfall over in Myanmar from this system, believe it or not, over in Thailand. So there should be a lot of heavy rainfall areas going to be receiving rainfall from this. But by far, the main rainfall threat from this is going to be limited to where that storm is going to be located. You're going to have a lot of landslide problems, flash flooding. I'm sure that many areas are going to be probably swept away from this, as these areas are very prone to flooding.
And not to mention that the IMD currently going with a half a meter storm surge, which is probably about 1 or 2 feet. So only a minor storm surge, but along this coastline, I think at least even down here, the immediate coast is very flat. So there could be issues there with the surge as well. Look at that satellite imagery, the infrared, massive blow-ups. Now let's clarify one thing first and foremost. That's not an eye. Those are overshooting tops. if there is an eye in this, Ethan, it's along the eastern side of that blow up, isn't it?
Yeah, this convective blow up that we've really been consistently having for like the past 2 days, really, believe it or not, is actually not over the exact center. So the center, probably, if I had to guess, it's hard to tell based off of a loop here. It's probably on the eastern side of things over here. I don't know if you can see my cursor or
Yeah,
not,
we're
but
seeing
hoping,
that.
but it's probably over here. So it's very lopsided circulation. I'll pull up the Simus wind shear graphic. This isn't the greatest, but it will get the point across. I'm just trying to find where shear is here. There we go. So you can see shear isn't too bad over the storm right now. It's around 15 knots or so. So there is some wind shear impeding this, which is it's been an issue for the storms really a good majority of its life cycle, and we'll hope that wind shear continues to kick in. But overall, conditions are still going to be favorable for this thing. But if I had to guess, probably why this is going for a really blobby mess right now is probably because of dry air. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Interesting. Maybe some wind shear as well. Looking at close up here on this satellite imagery as well, just giving you the idea in relation to those land areas. We were talking about rainfall before, and with regards to Myanmar in our earlier forecasts, some indications were showing that we might have got 1,000 millimeters of rain over that area because this storm was going to head that way. Obviously, it's found itself on completely the other side of the Bay of Bengal, so it looks like rain totals over there will be lower. We're still looking at something like 350 millimeters more that may be slightly associated with this storm. But obviously now we've got this closing in on India, and a landfall is inevitable. What strength it will make landfall at, not sure. Tropical storm force winds are already over land, and whether the hurricane force winds will continue, odds against at the moment, because it is expected to weaken substantially before actually making landfall. And even though it looks extremely close right now, that might still be a day away.
Yeah, it's moving quite slowly off towards the west right now. Let me just get the interpolated ATCF movement here. Yeah, so right now this thing is moving at 6 knots, which is something like 7 miles per hour, I think.
Yeah, about 7 miles per hour. So you're
Yeah, so
looking at
it's moving.
models there.
Yeah, I was just pulling up the GFS's thing for the next 5 days, and you can see there's our system, and it has this very localized area of heavy rainfall for the next 5 days. But once you really get beyond 3 days, you can see that heavy rainfall falling probably from a monsoonal pattern over there, if I had to guess. But
But it
as
could
far
be
as the
loosely
system,
associated with this storm's remnants.
yep, it absolutely could. Just trying to see if there's anything. Nope, not any trace of its remnants on this rainfall graphic, but very localized rainfall. But if we were to go back, say, I don't
Oh
know, we'll go
boy.
back to the run that's 3 days ago, and you can see how much rainfall we were seeing. So that there's our storm's track right there, and look at how much rainfall we could have seen.
Oh yeah, it probably had that early recurve, and as you can see, hardly any rain over India there. That was forecasted three
Yeah,
days ago.
and it's gone from that to this now. Certainly a good change for Myanmar. Um, Probably a not so good change for these areas of the Indian coastline, but it's not too often that they get a system like this. High tropical storm, low cat one. Uh, but heavy rainfall, as we've been saying, I can't hammer that home enough. Don't focus on the wind aspect of things. Don't focus on this as a tropical storm or a category one. Focus on the impacts for your area, and that's going to be heavy rainfall for a large majority of these population centers at risk.
Yes, I believe. Trying to remember on the calculations what it was. I think it's over 2 million that got high rainfall expectations. Or actually, I think it was 2 million that had 50 knot wind, 10% or higher. Right now, there is, I think it was like an 85 to 90% chance of tropical storm force winds along the coast there. So it is going to happen. Indeed, it's probably already happening. When you look back at the JTWC forecast cone I had on a moment ago, there it is again, you'll see that the radius there, the quadrants, the red outer zone there, that's tropical storm force winds, and it's just about reaching the coast already. And they reckon that as it weakens, there'll still be a little bit of 50 knot winds along the coast before they vanish. But of course, as we know, rainfall is the primary threat. I know that Trin is listening right now. Are you on the line? Can we speak to you? Over there somewhere? Nope, I don't think so at the moment, but I know you're there. Let's see if we can look at any different imagery right now. I think we've got this. Yes, this is the RAM imagery, and actually looking slightly glitchy there, and I can tell you why. It's because I think it keeps shifting between the two satellites, one of them showing higher cloud tops than the other. One's the Himawari and the other one is the Meteosat, and they're sort of on the overlap phase between the two satellites right now. And you can see, in general though, that massive burst of convection has sort of shrunk a little bit since this morning. But it is just about to reach land. Ethan, are you quite impressed in how it's managed to sustain this intensity? Because it wasn't expected.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm certainly very surprised that this thing is maintaining this amount of intensity for this long. I mean, I'm just looking at the RAM graphics. In the past 48 hours or so, it's been fighting 20 knots or more of wind shear, and it's been maintaining winds of 70 to 75 miles per hour, maybe even towards 65 at times. But overall, very impressive, very well done. But I have a feeling that the seasonal temperatures might have something to do with that, because in the past 24 to 48 hours, they've only just decreased to 29 degrees Celsius, and for the past 48 hours, they were actually close to 31 degrees Celsius. So very warm waters for the Bay of Bengal. And I know that I was talking to someone, I think it was yesterday or the day before, in a public server call, and they were asking me a good question actually. Will this storm be impacted, or will the seasonal temperatures be impacted by this? And my guess is probably not. So if we
No.
have another system that has more favorable conditions, seasonal temperatures are not going to go anywhere for this for the Bay of Bengal.
Yeah, they won't have been affected very much by this in the long run. I know there's one or two little rumblings that there might be a west coast storm later on in the month, a weak one. But in the Bay of Bengal, it will be more time before another storm appears, and it'll have a good shot again.
Actually, if I'm not wrong, ECMW hitting another cyclone in next week, around May 20, showing another cyclone in Bay of Bengal.
Can't be ruled out, but I don't think we're seeing that at the moment. But honestly, you know, this time of year, they can, of course, happen back to back. Trin, nice to have you on board there. You're in Kolkata
Actually,
right now.
in 2000, in actually 2018, there was 3 cyclone in North Indian Ocean in the month of May, and in 2002 also there. So it's not a very rare thing. It happened sometimes.
So, what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
this
it's
storm
nice.
right now? Its movement has it been unexpected from a point of view over there? What the authorities have been saying?
Actually, that full storm was unexpected for me. Actually, it generated from South Andaman Sea. The cyclone in May month, not usually generate from South Andaman Sea, and it peaked 2nd times. So it was quite a unexpected cyclone, and its impact is around 1,000 kilometers away from its center, like Odisha, West Bengal, even Bangladesh and Myanmar get some heavy rains. In coastal area of Bangladesh, like Khepupara, even observed extremely heavy rains of about 8 inches. And there were flash flooding in southern Thailand, peninsular Thailand, where one person already died because of
Gosh,
flash
already.
flooding. So the impact of yeah, already one person died there due to the impact of peripheral band of Asani. And from ground observation currently in the landfall area, there was winds of around 20 to 30 knots. And in Nellore, there were 81 millimeter of heavy rainfall already occurred from the morning.
That's quite substantial. So,
So,
yeah.
and to tell about the landfall area is pretty much vulnerable for the Andhra Pradesh coast. Actually, if you see the geographical position of the landfall area, that is a delta, and
Right.
obviously a low-lying area, and uh, have featured by various backwaters, which can trigger a storm surge about 5 to 6 meter. So it will be very devastating for the area with 100 kph or 100 about that type of cyclone. And most of the people are there are fishermen, and the settlements are village, so they don't get update from IMD or any weather agency. So really a very bad situation for that area.
Yeah, the black zones there on that satellite derived rainfall estimates, that's well over 50 millimeters per hour if that reaches the coastline. 50 millimeters of rainfall per hour, which obviously
Actually,
very.
yeah, Indian meteorology, yeah, MD should red alert for that area. They are expecting extremely heavy rainfall of around more than 200 millimeter in 24 hours.
Hmm.
And obviously there will be gale force windstorms as pretty bad condition.
Thank you for that. We've got some comments here. First of all, Jack Hibster, thank you for your support this afternoon, which obviously helps us in our operations. Dorian M says, how many times did Asani reach Category 1 status? We have it down as 2, and so does the JTWC.
I would agree with that.
Yep, and is there another chance that another storm can form in the next 5 to 10 days in the Indian Ocean? We're sort of discussing that just then. Um,
Yeah,
Ethan, I mean, I'll throw it back to you for a minute, Ethan, because you were looking at that model,
Hmm.
and I do
Yeah,
believe
I'm.
GFS has something in the Arabian Sea long range, but I don't think there's anything in
Does
the shorter range.
it does? We can take a brief look at the
ACMWF
model.
was indicating something in 240 hours in Bay of Bengal in recent 2 runs.
Right.
I don't know what will happen.
Wind forward
Anyway,
there, Ethan.
looking at the GFS here, you can see there's Asani
Yep.
making landfall as a weakening system kind of collapses as it moves in.
Yeah.
And then in 3 days, it's gone. Not even traceable. Wow, that's quite impressive.
I do wonder if that's
Um,
anything to do with the heat waves I've been having there.
hmm. But there is this area of vorticity over here that won't become anything. Um, have heavy rainfall looking to be there, but then you start to get towards those long range things,
Mm.
and eventually something tries to form off of the west coast. This isn't an exact forecast, but
And
there is
that's,
something
when's that?
possible long
23rd?
range.
That's way out.
Yeah, that's 13 days ahead. So it is extremely long range, and I would take this with an absolute grain of salt. This probably won't happen, but we can never be too sure. We'll pop onto the other models here. We'll pop onto the Euro here, and yeah, typical monsoons have maybe some
Oh, look
rumblings
at
or
that.
something.
There it is. So
Maybe some rumblings there.
ECMWF has something on day 10 there.
Yeah,
Yes, I
that's
am saying
something.
that.
Let's see on the Canadian here. There's Asani making landfall there, and yeah, nothing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Doesn't appear that anything too crazy is going to happen in the Bay of Bengal after the system's gone and done. We can check the
Well, at
whole
least for
Indian
10
Ocean.
days.
We can check the whole Indian Ocean there. There's our existing cyclone. What's its name again?
Kareem,
Kareem?
yeah, down there in
Yeah,
the southern Indian
yeah.
Ocean. Hmm.
Or does the loop there and then
Yeah,
it dies off. And yeah, nothing. Maybe a cyclone in the South China Sea in the medium to long range, maybe.
It's been hinting at that for a good while.
But it appears that tropical activity on this part of the globe is going to be pretty quiet as after the system's gone.
Okay. Let's go back to the latest imagery of Asani right now, for those who have just joined us. There it is, currently a Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. That's winds of 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour. That's sustained winds with higher gusts. Currently the pressure is estimated around 980 millibars, and it's closing in pretty close now to the coast of Andhra Pradesh in India. Locations near the landfall, places such as Machilipatnam, and that's the main place actually that would be very close to the landfall zone. Ongole down towards the southwest as well, and Guntur towards the northwest too. Those locations probably right in the middle of what's going to be going on in the next 48 hours. It is moving slowly. If we look back at the JTWC's forecast cone once again, you will see that the initial point there and the landfall point, we're probably looking at about 12 to 18 hours still until the actual landfall, considering it's only about forgotten what the distance was now, but it's not very far offshore.
I should note to you, Nathan, that the JTWC are actually going to be issuing a new forecast cone at top of the hour, and I hear that the ATCF has also downgraded it to a tropical storm. So, while that's only a 5 mile per hour difference, 75 down to 70, that's weakening, which is a good thing. But as we've been saying this entire stream, the impacts are what matter, and heavy rainfall is so to be an absolutely significant threat along portions of the immediate coastline.
It's not the biggest surprise in the world to hear that they'll have it weakened at the next update. This is expected and is likely to begin promptly. And when it does start weakening, we think it's going to be a quick weakening process.
If you ask me, this probably hasn't had cyclone force winds at 75 miles per hour or higher, probably since 0Z yesterday. I know that it had a brief spell after 0Z yesterday where some estimates supported it back up to cyclone intensity, but my best guess is they only maintained that probably for 6 hours, and it's still struggling on wind shear,
Really?
and it looks like it's already starting to collapse already.
Maybe slightly. But still, well, it's shrinking. We'll give you that, but decent cloud tops at the moment still, and that means that on the ground we're going to be looking at probably very high rain rates that could be approaching 50 millimeters per hour. Which I guess is the bottom line.
Possible? Do you know if it's possible for you to get rain rates in the past 6 hours at all, Nathan?
Rain rates in the past 6 hours. Well, the best I can really do is just stare at this imagery, which has been showing along the coast, areas near Nellore and Trin. You said, what were you saying about Nellore earlier? I didn't quite catch it. 80 something, was it millimeters of rain or kilometers per hour?
Nellore observed 81 millimeter of rain in past 12 hours.
Yeah, so that's an actual observation on the ground there, Ethan, of over 80 millimeters in the last 12 hours. And that's before the main brunt of the storm reaches the coast there.
I'm just converting that just to inches. That's
3 inches, just over.
Just over 3 inches. Yeah, that's crazy, and yet they haven't even seen like the main onset of all the heavy rainfall. And if I had to guess, the main driving factor behind that 80 millimeters of rainfall, if you're, I'm looking at your imagery right now, Nathan, and they had that brief heavy rain spell. It looks like that they passed just west of the city. That's probably what delivered them that 80 millimeters of rainfall. But once the system is going to get into those regions, how long are they going to have heavy rainfall for, Nathan, do you estimate? Like probably 6, 12 hours, if not more?
It's hard to say when you look at this, because this is satellite derived, for one. I know there's a radar over there, but I was not able to obtain it before the start of this stream, unfortunately. Maybe you could go hunting for it. But it's hard to tell because it's going to be moving northwest, even though that rain is progressing westwards. So I would say somewhere between Nellore and, I think it's Ongole or Ongole, I'm not sure. But between those two locations, you're probably looking at a period of quite a bit of rain in the next few hours tonight. I would say 50 to 100 millimeters quite easily. By the early hours. Let's get a few more questions then, and you can send them in live on the air. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. They'll light up for us, and it's nice to have you with us this evening. Will it have severe impacts, first of all?
Yeah.
IMD posted in their last bulletin about what sort of damage could be expected, which I think is quite interesting, because not all agencies do that. And just let me try and find that again. So this is what they're saying. Damage expected for Krishna, East and West Godavari and Visakhapatnam districts of Andhra Pradesh as follows: damage to thatched huts, minor damage to power and communication lines due to breaking of branches, major damage to Kutcha and minor damage to Pukka roads, some damage to paddy crops, banana, papaya trees and orchards. And of course, action suggested, and this is from the IMD, check for traffic congestion on your route due to heavy rain before leaving for your destination. I mean, I'd advise against travel in this area. Follow any traffic advisories that are issued in this regard. Avoid going to areas that face the waterlogging problems often, and stay in safe places. Very vague help there. Stay in safe places. You know, I mean, don't go out if necessary.
Yeah, that is.
And they have heavy rainfall warnings. They have a red warning.
Yeah, red warning means extremely heavy rainfall, around 200 millimeter or more than that.
Yep, for Andhra Pradesh today and tomorrow. Extending northwards, orange level alert, I think, for Odisha tomorrow. Lots of yellow around India. Unable to show this graphic properly, unfortunately. So, you know, I mean, rain is going to be a big threat, it would seem, for a lot of areas. More questions here or comments. GFS predicts a landfall in southern Maharashtra of a cyclone. Trin, where exactly is that? I know the name, but I can't remember where it is.
What?
In southern Maharashtra.
Yeah.
Where is that again?
What was the question?
Oh, just say. Oh, I see. It's on the west coast. That would be in regards to the other the later storm.
Mumbai area. Yes.
Yeah.
It's long range though.
That is a very long range. Any cyclone on the west coast like Taute this year?
Too early
I don't think so.
Is there any area of interest in the Atlantic Ocean in the next 5 days, Ethan?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
I know that people are freaking out over this ex-tropical cyclone that we've got off the Carolinas coastline. Not going to develop at all. Does not even have a chance.
Taniel says hello and sends us a message of support there. And does Karim have something in common with Asani, or are they completely different storms? They do?
Yeah, yes, actually. The way that they formed is it's a meteorological phenomenon that I know I'm very vaguely known in it, but I know that it's called a westerly wind burst. And that's when conditions overall move into this region and get very favorable for cyclonic development. And occasionally they can lead to a Bay of Bengal system as well as a system west of Indonesia. We've had this a couple of times. I know that we had that back in
back
in 2020.
2019 and 2019 was too, during for me.
We had that back in 2019 with Amphan, I think, and we also had that southern hemisphere storm, I think, during
I
Amphan. I'm
think
trying
it's
to
a
remember,
low from 2019 to 20.
Well,
that
anyway, I
thing.
don't remember, but I'm
Was
sure.
Manga. Oh, that's the name.
Oh, I
Hmm.
see.
Yeah, we had that's just one example where we can occasionally in May. It's actually pretty common actually, where we have a cyclone west of Indonesia as well as in the Bay of Bengal at the same time. So these two storms are somewhat connected, but at this time they're probably completely different things at this point.
Oh, of course they are now, and they
Yeah,
they might have. If I can't remember fully now, but they might have formed out of the same mess,
they did. Yes,
tropical
they did.
mess at the beginning. There's a name for that, but just a massive. Sometimes you can get massive areas of low pressures. They always used to call them the doldrums in sailing terms, didn't they? Around the
Mm.
tropical zones. Anyway, we're continuing to look at this on satellite imagery right now. It's getting fairly close to landfall, although it's not going to happen for some time yet. And by the time we do our next video update on the Force 13 channel, which will be at about, gosh, when is it? I'm trying to convert time zones in my head here. I think it's around 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. It'll
What
probably,
Zulu time are we talking about?
that's at 2Z, about 9 a.m. tomorrow Indian time. It may only just be about to make landfall then, even though it's looking more like. But then again, it could throw up another surprise and just make landfall really quickly. I mean, it's been surprising us for a little while with its track, going much more west than expected. These areas that are currently under significant cloud tops right now, I think we're only given about a 5% chance 3 days ago.
Yeah, just shows you how uncommon things can be, and really from the beginning we had uncertainty in the forecast of this thing where it was going to go. So I'm just trying to find something that I made a couple days ago as a
Oh,
forecast cone on Asani.
oh
It was
right.
back whenever it was developing, and I'll pull it up on my screen, Nathan, and you can
Hmm.
see where it is now. It's over here. I didn't even have that in my forecast cone, so that just is something worth noting that this was a very uncertain situation, and changes are likely, even though that a system might be forecast to go up here towards Kolkata. That changes could happen, and it's very important to stay tuned to our outlets for future updates as the thing goes.
And
But
there it is
changes have
now.
happened.
Latest from JTWC there. Actually, it does take it back out over waters near Visakhapatnam at the end of
If
that.
it makes it.
At the end of that, I mean, it's dead by then. When is that? That's the 13th, the morning of the 13th. That would be. Just want to show you this as well. This is our model output from earlier, from RAM, showing the intensity and the shear and sea surface temperature, all of the different factors really that make a tropical cyclone. I'll go through them here. So the top left there is the intensity forecast, and obviously it's near the peak right now, second peak, and then it weakens somewhat substantially. I've seen quicker weakenings than that, to be honest, at landfalls. However, you
Going.
you will see that something sticks out there, and that is the CTCX model, which thinks that it will limp on and survive as a tropical depression or weak tropical storm all the way to Bangladesh later on. I don't think that will happen, but that is one option. All the others have it completely dead just as it leaves the coast. See,
I'd actually think that it probably would die earlier than that, Nathan. I actually think that it might lose its circulation completely before exiting the coastline. Um, so certainly this thing is going to be rapidly weakening as it moves into land.
you can
And
see there that the whole time wind shear has been moderate, 20 to
yeah,
25 knots, and staying the same for a good while. Sea surface temperature is good, relative humidity good. It was the wind shear all along, I feel, Ethan.
yeah, part of me thinks that. Though part of me also thinks that some dry air may have gotten entangled in the system, but yeah, primarily going to be shear. But yeah, that's probably why this thing is weakening. And with it starting to get landing direction now, that's only going to speed it up.
Oh, we are also joined by Kenneth right now, who joins us from Hong Kong, and it's nice to have you on board. There you are.
So, yeah.
Man of the hour.
What would you like to tell us about Cyclone Asani right now?
So, as Sunny as forecast, it is maintaining borderline high-end tropical storm line Cat 1 intensity. It is suffering from shear. We've just discussed it. 20 to 25 knots. In CIMSS shear map, yeah, it agrees. Wind shear is pretty high, actually, 20-25 knots. Mid shear also pretty high, 15 knots. So you can see the convection block being, well, it is consistently being torn away. The mid levels are being entrenched by shear, and the mid level, low level being tilted. Let me just show. Let me just share my entire screen here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah, let's go over to Kenneth's display right now.
So you can see the mid shear 15 to 20 knots, deep layer shear also 20-25 knots easterly wind. You can see those vectors here, to easterly shear here, and then you also have some microwave here. You can see there's a blob here at near 14 point something east, 81.5 east. But you can see at the lower level, 37 gigahertz. It's pretty messy.
Crikey, what is that?
Yeah, that's pretty. They give that 65 knots.
Actually, I'll explain the current intensity later. There's some more direct ups there. I'll explain later. You can see this edge pass. You can see the convection lopside is still to the south. The lower level is still very messy. Even earlier, you can see some mid-level eye, right? Seems to be, but more lower level, tilted, misaligned. You can see that is the mid-level eye at the southwestern side. You can see how big the shear is, but with the high sea surface temperature, let me show the satellite.
And it looks like in latest frames on the satellite imagery, Nathan, the cloud tops are becoming even more displaced from the center.
Not exactly the center, that is. It just
more shear.
Because it is called a bursting pattern, the cloud tops temperature will fluctuate a bit, but you can see those overshooting tops keep firing up here. Actually, bursting pattern for T3.5 or above suggests a maintenance in intensity, which, satellite estimates prove that ADT, AIDT, SATCON, even subjective forward, all saying 60 to 65 knots currently. So that is the satellite estimates. But how about this, which is the radar velocity we have?
Yeah, thank you for showing this. We've not been able to get radar this end.
So this is from IMD website. You can see the radar. You can see there's the white line here, which is the white 0 meter per second, which is the zero ISO dot. I'll briefly introduce again how to read a Doppler radar velocity. So the blue here, the negative value, the winds are towards the radar, while the red, yellow, orange are those winds that will go away from the radar radially. So you can see at the southern side, you can see those dark red translates to like 35, nearly 40 meters, like near 40 meters per second, I think.
Hard to tell which exactly colour that is. I think it
Yes,
might be the one
30,
below.
yeah, 35 to 40, I think, which that translates to 65 to 70 miles per hour. Because you can see, here's the elevation of 0.2 degree, and you have to consider Earth curvature as well. So, like here, 100 kilometers away from radar means roughly 1 kilometer above sea level, which around 35 to 40 meter per second translates to like 105 kilo 1 minute sustain, 105 to 110, and that's
Right.
pretty much we confidently tell that is the current intensity of roughly 60 knots based on radar velocity and satellite estimates.
Do you have reflectivity there whilst we're here?
Yeah, reflectivity here.
So this is what most people are familiar with when they look at radar.
Yeah, but actually the center is way far away from those reflectivity. It is near 15 north 82 E. But all those convection and
Right.
it all displays to 81 degrees east. But that also means those small rain bands are already touching the eastern coast of Andhra Pradesh.
So how have you established your position estimate there?
So you can see the okay. Let's go back to the velocity because the satellite is pretty much kind of bad to use for position estimate. So you can see the line 0 isotope here. So you can draw a
I see.
negative slope line here to estimate the position here.
That's
You
pretty
draw a
cool.
line here first. Yeah, so you can draw a line here. And then, but that tells you the line of where the center lies, but not exactly center. So you go back to microwave. So you can see those empty areas here. You go back to the curvature here, the red side, and then you can see the southern blob is located like the southern side, this convection blob, the darkest red here. It indicates the very southern side, so you take the middle of it around 82.1, approximately 82.1 east, and then you go all the way north, and then you can see the western side. You can see the arc, right? The pink arc here, right? You estimate that you go to the 10, you go to the normal of the circle where it's parallel to the latitude line. The
Crikey.
when the arc, yeah,
Well, I'll leave that to you.
radius arc, yeah. So you can get us 15.2, 82.1, something like that.
Alright, thank you for that. Here's some more imagery from across today, visible as the day progressed, and those last visibles there before nighttime fell, which wasn't too long ago. And back to the latest infrared imagery, showing you once again how this has progressed in the last 12 hours or so. A storm that's still packing decent winds of around hurricane force strength and high rain rates, which could reach 50 millimeters per hour in some areas, at least for a short time, when the worst of the rain moves ashore. And those latest images, in fact, some minus 85 to minus 90 degree cloud tops getting over land now, so that may be interesting. A couple of questions and comments. William's saying that we might get a storm in the Atlantic in a week or two. We all keep rounding back onto that, I think.
No,
And our team,
I ain't getting about this.
our team don't like answering Atlantic questions. Ooh. And
As always.
what is the temperature of Cyclone Asani and how big is it now?
So if you see temperature, if you ask the in the cloud top, you can see still those -85, -90, and the overshooting tops in there. But you're talking about the surface. Sea surface is still very warm though. If you say the surface temperature, pretty much it has cooled down a bit.
All right.
Around 82, well, still rather hot, 82, 84 Fahrenheit, as some regions surrounding even 90 Fahrenheit. Or I'll just shift it to degrees Celsius. I'm not used to Fahrenheit. So
32.
yeah, around 30 something Celsius. It's still rather hot, but the temperature probably drop as the rain bands progresses more. You see the radar. You can see the radar. The spar rain bands already approaching the coast here. You can see, and the velocity also shows that actually some gale force winds is already affecting the coast. Those orange area, which is already kind of destructive. I mean,
Certainly.
already torn down some weak trees.
There's a question there about whether it can produce tornadoes as well.
Quite unlikely, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Though it is still possible.
Not. Well, I'll say not really, because you don't have some westerly stream. You can see the up. Well, I'll give you the up level winds. You can see most winds are rather weak. The very upper level wind. I mean, typically in a jet stream where you see like in the US, you typically had an upper level wind like 200 millibar, 300 millibar, 100 millibar to 300 millibar. You always see those wind like 100. But you can see this upper level wind showing CIMSS graph is not more than 40 knots, which means that the stream, the shear is very weak, first of all. And secondly, you don't have a jet, which it most likely should be westerly or strong easterly in order to make shear and make the an updraft due to shear, but just simply it doesn't have the environment, so no way it will produce a tornado, to be honest.
There we are then. Looking back once again, the latest JTWC cone, and Ethan, you said that they downgraded it at the latest update. Was that right? Well, I think that's what Ethan said earlier. But there it is at the last update when it was 75 miles per hour, and we'll wait to see whether that does indeed weaken. And a question there about whether that the storm will intensify or weaken. Well, it's pretty much done at this point that it is going to weaken now as we get closer and closer to landfall. Looking back, let's see what's on Ethan's screen right now. Just another satellite loop, and you can see how that's looking. Once again, that area that looks like it's the center to the untrained eye, that is not the center, and it's not an eye. Those are the overshooting tops, and those are in themselves making landfall right now. Kenneth, what do you reckon about the landfall time? Surely at this pace it's not going to be in another 15 hours like what is suggested.
So it's currently around 130 something away from land, and its current movement speed is like it is low. It pretty much in the last few hours it slowed down considerably from like moving from 18 to 20 kilometers per hour, but now it's already decelerated to only 10 to 12 kilometers per hour movement. So given it is starting to turn or also make a turn expected, so it pretty much refers to given the weakness of subtropical high, it's pretty much will further slow, like 8 to 10 kilo movement. So I reckon it still have roughly half day or above. And like I'll expect a landfall midday, I'll say midday tomorrow, roughly, like 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. time, I'll say the uncertainty is rather high because the travel forecast itself is rather uncertain. It's already pretty uncertain in this case,
And it has
I'll
been for the whole
expect a
time, really,
timeline.
hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can see in this in the models, you can see a few days ago it really diversified from an early turn all the way drift to Myanmar, Bangladesh, but sees it go all the way back to all the way to Andhra, and as this progress, it's still really diversified. Still, it's still even very diversified. The day before, it seems to be more consensus, but it just after all models have to shift because the current situation changed that.
That's a massive shift, though, when you were looking at just the day before.
Yeah, it just extremely massive shift that.
Did you have any indication that was going to happen?
Indication that that's pretty much the steering at the upper level. You can see those easterly shear, right? Those easterly wind at the higher level and mid level. That's also it is how the system being steered, so it also goes even more westward under the ridge. And so yeah, that's pretty much. Let's go to 850 hectopascal. And you can see those. It's pretty sparse the wind bars, but you can still see it is generally the steer east-west, northwest to northwest still. Instead of some more northerly winds, which models want that it will make a drift. Like
Right.
the Nabi is expected tomorrow drift, but right now it's continues to move west.
We'll be here for a few more minutes on Force 13 Live. We will have a lot more coverage around the landfall, whenever that might be. Early in the morning, probably, or mid-morning, as the case might be. So please send in your questions now if you have any. There was a comment there about will Asani bring rainfall in Kolkata? And Trin, you're still with us right now. What are your rainfall prospects
Yeah,
looking like?
some sporadic intense spell may happen sometime. Actually, MD already issued heavy rainfall alert here, so maybe some isolated heavy showers possible around today or tomorrow due to it.
Totals, though, I don't think will be very high, will they, really?
No, I think light to moderate shower possibly, but shower will be intense sometimes, I think.
And just a reminder about how strong this storm is. It is still currently, well, we think, unless, let me just double check. So, ATCF has knocked it down, haven't they, Kenneth?
Yeah, 87 knocked it to 60 knots, and I'm pretty much more inclined to 55 to 60 right now, based on
Right.
radar velocity.
So, we're probably going to be going with 70 miles per hour, 110 kilometers per hour sustained winds. And the pressure's probably in the low 980s right now.
Yes, around 983.
Interesting. So that's a little indication of how strong this is. Are there any storms in the southern Indian Ocean? Yes, we've still got Cyclone Karim, which is also weakening as far as I can tell. Latest ATCF just went with, what have they gone with? 55 knots, which is 65 miles per hour. I suppose now what we can do before we finish up is have a sweep round the world looking at the GFS model and showing you what might be to come, just because I can do that on here, and it's quite interesting and we can do a little bit of explaining. So I'm gonna whip that up here next, and then we'll finish our stream, but we will of course have more updates, plenty of them, tomorrow morning local time. I'll just be loading all this up right now. Whilst I do that, you can take a little look at it, and I can nicely show you. Just making sure everything's working. Oh no, I didn't configure everything. Right. Pardon me. Just setting everything up here. Right, I think that's working, so let's go over there now. There we go. So there's the latest indication of what the storm was from the GFS this morning, although maybe a little bit eager. This is what it was proposing for how it would be making landfall, and as you can see, it shrinks a lot and weakens. By the time it makes landfall, it may not even be a tropical storm. There's the landfall image by the looks of things. It's quite a late landfall actually. This might have changed since then, but tropical storm force winds, which are marked in green all over the coastline there, and then it makes landfall, producing some winds inland for a little bit and then nothing much beyond. I can show you a visual, well, we'll do that later actually, because it will mess up my system. But we know about the rain visualizations that we're probably looking for a little tongue of maybe how much. Just trying to think of how much it is. I think it's about 10 inches of rain round about this area here. So let's zoom out and have a look at this whole basin first of all in the Indian Ocean. Let me try and center my imagery. That looks a lot better. Right, there's the Indian Ocean right now, and you can see both storms. On the northern side there's Asani, on the southern side Karim. They were much more closer together at one point. Karim gets swept away there by a front by the looks of things, and there's nothing left of it by the time we get to next week. Just interested to look at the Indian Ocean here as we get into next week. There's a little thingy there, but that doesn't look like a tropical cyclone, although it may be trying there in that imagery. Very curious. Not sure whether that will happen. Just want to point out anything else going on around the world. The Western Pacific, next 7 days, there could be a low pressure system there that could try to become a tropical storm over the Philippines. In the Eastern Pacific, we are currently monitoring a system that might form. There you can see it starting to whip itself up, and there it goes. GFS currently wants it to become a hurricane, I think. And in the Atlantic, the thing that everyone is talking about for no reason is an extratropical cyclone that won't develop. There it goes. And elsewhere in the world, things looking pretty quiet. Asani, of course, the main story today on this stream, and of course we'll be spending plenty more time looking at it tomorrow. Let me go back to not that imagery, but this imagery here. From our team, anything you'd just like to mention before we finish?
So finally, as Storm Asani is approaching, for those areas affected at the landfalling region, which is near the center of this radar. So within this region, pretty much if you're near like 100 to 150 kilometers around this radar, and also the part the north is expected to drift north and turn northeast. So please stay away from the coast. Stop all water activities. Do not as the coastal region is starting to experience storm to gale force winds. Do not stand near exposed window or some pillar trees. They can be vulnerable and easy to fall. Do not stand near electrical wires. Yeah, that's pretty much your precautions during a storm.
All right, I think Everyone is content there. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. You will be redirected if you want more coverage of sorts to our automated stream when we turn this one off. Basically, you just get to look around the world and the latest satellite imagery comes in automatically of the storm. So there's all of that going on our live stream. And make sure to support our channel, subscribe, like our videos, and we'll see you again soon for the landfall coverage, no doubt, as we get towards tomorrow morning. So that is obviously impending, coming up soon, and if you subscribe to our channel it will come up when we start streaming again. But from here at Force 13 HQ, just our message always to stay safe in this storm. It could be a serious flooding issue for this area of Andhra Pradesh. We'll see you again soon. Have a good evening. Good night.